because we all joined MattFirm literally on the same day and had Carrie and Ken train us. But I remember I got a scholarship from Darren Lewin the year before we graduated to come down and be an intern, and he gave me a scholarship, and I had to turn it down because I had an opportunity to go to Europe. But I remember thinking it was kind of a joke company, and I was going to school for economics, and I had these big career aspirations. I wanted to go and work for a big company, and I remember this guy that was in my fraternity named Brad Bars, and it was the year later, and we were graduating. And I remember why I joined MattFirm. It was literally he came back with the recruiting team, which consisted of Cricket, and Ken was there, and I wish Carrie was here too, but she was at the recruiting thing. And I remember the year before when he was in my business classes, he always wanted me to help him with his homework, and he couldn't get up and give a speech for shit in front of anyone. I mean, it was literally like watching a special ed kid trying to give a presentation. And I don't mean to be mean to the guy, I guess, but he was very he couldn't speak very well in front of people. But the year he came back to recruit, he impressed the living hell out of me. And I remember I was negotiating with Lewin on money, and I had a job offer in Minnesota. But the one deciding factor that made my decision to come work for MattFirm was that they turned Brad Bars into a guy who couldn't speak in front of anyone to someone who came and spoke in front of a whole business auditorium full of people. I couldn't remember I just remember how impressed I was that they did that for him within just a year or two. And it really just kind of struck me. So I joined the company and negotiated with Lewin to get a better raise. It was kind of a fun deal. We drove down from Sioux Falls as well, and we also had the walkie-talkies because cell phones weren't existing. But I remember my first day at work. If you guys know or have ever worked for Carrie Forbes, she can give you the evil eye if you do something wrong. I mean, it's just, you don't even have to be disciplined. You feel like shit for years. And so I remember our first day. We got, the night before our first day, we got hammered at the bar. We were all there together. And I remember specifically getting up in the morning, and we were leaving for work. We only had to go up about 3 exits. I don't know if you remember this. You were there that day too. But Carrie didn't believe it until maybe last year when I convinced her after 12 years or 11 years of trying to do it. But seriously, our toilet clogged, and it was like just gushing out water all over the floors. Our first apartment, like we're freaking out. We're trying to go to work. The toilet won't stop. It's just overflowing like crazy. And we literally show up like 45 minutes late, our very first day at MattFirm. And we're trying to tell Carrie this story, and she's just looking at us like we're the biggest piece of shits on the planet. Like, I am not buying that shit. And she never bought it until probably after 11 years of persistence. But I just remember that look on her face. Yeah. And she still didn't believe me. But it was quite a memorable experience. But just the things that people did for us back then. I remember when I showed up the first day, whoever got us, I think it was Mark Naughton, screwed up our apartment and got us a 3-bedroom instead of 2. And $80 rent was a huge deal when you're just getting out of college. And I remember the very first day we moved in, and we realized our rent was higher, and everyone was scheduled to go out to lake. I think you guys remember that. We were all going out to lake, but they stopped everything. Literally, they rented a truck, and they brought 10 or 15 people over to our apartment, and they would not go to the lake until they unloaded our house and loaded us into a new apartment so we could go to lake. And I remember Mark Naughton, we're sitting there at 12 o'clock, we got the van, we're trying to get in the new place, and she's like, nope, we got to wait for this thing from the bank. And Mark just kept on going. He's like, so can we have the keys? And she's like, no. How about now? And she would just look at him. She's like, no. And like literally 2 seconds later, he'd be like, how about now? And this girl was getting so pissed off. Finally, Mark asked like 7 or 8 times, how about now in a row? And she's just like, get the hell out of here and move in your place. But by 2 o'clock, we're up at the lake. And I remember that. And I tell new hires this story about, Brad Bars not being so great. And I tell them about the welcoming I got into Atlanta. And at that point, I was just so overwhelmed at the generosity and camaraderie that we have in this company. It's just, it's just a cool story to tell new people and to be able to live. I just love it.